श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतरशत श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतरशत श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतरशत श्रीमद् भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतरशत श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्ट महाभागवत शिल गोक्षरदास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्ट शिल सच्चिद आनंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। मिथिला प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरी गुरु वार्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पतदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर पार्षद वृंद की जय। नाम अक्षय श्रीहरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट विदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Tanva pranams Gargaraj ji, Madhu Didi, and Raseshwari Mataji. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tar Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravobhine Dustang Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shrinvatang Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Hyabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam. Nashta Praishvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Tavaivasmi na jivami tvaya vina Iti vigyaya radhetam nayamam charanantikam. Bhaktya vihina aparadha lakshay Shiktastakama ditaranga madhe Kripa maitvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charana ravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Rup Manjari Didi Dandavat Pranam. So I forgot to bring my charger here. You can see in the description that I gave the link in case my computer runs out of battery. I'll have to switch over to my phone and I won't be able to share my screen anymore. So in that case, you can just click on the link. Yeah, I have 47% battery, so let's see how it goes. So day before yesterday, we completed the whole Lila of the Ramchandra, Lord Ram's reciprocation of the Brahmins, the descendants of Lord Ram and his brothers, the return of Sita and Ram to Vaikuntha and their glories, and Lord Ram's dealings with his brothers and citizens. Then we read about the dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. And so these, first we read about the descendants of Kusha. This is all in the past. And then we read about, so all those kings in the Ikshvaku dynasty have passed away. Then the following is a list of kings who will be born in the future. So the future kings of the Surya dynasty. So then we went through all that, and it all ended with Sumitra. He had no more sons. So now we're reading about the dynasty of Mahārāja Nimi. In this chapter, Shukadeva Goswami describes the dynasty of King Nimi, the sons of Ikshvaku. This completes the description of the Sun dynasty. So now we're going to complete the Sun dynasty, and then after we'll start with the Moon dynasty, the dynasty of Krishna. All right, so let's start. Chapter 13. This chapter describes the dynasty in which the great and learned scholar Janak was born. This is the dynasty of Mahārāja Nimi, who is said to have been the son of Ikshvaku. When Mahārāja Nimi began performing great sacrifices, he appointed Vasishtha to be the chief priest, but Vasishtha refused, for he had already agreed to be the priest and performing a yajna for Lord Indra. Vasishtha therefore said Mahārāja Nimi to wait until Lord Indra's sacrifice was finished. But Mahārāja Nimi did not wait. He thought, life is very short, so there is no need to wait. He therefore appointed another priest to perform the yajna. Vasishtha was very angry at King Nimi and cursed him, saying, "May your body fall down." Cursed in that way, Mahārāja Nimi also became very angry, and he retaliated, saying, "May your body also fall down." As a result of this cursing and counter-cursing, both of them died. After this incident, Vasishtha took birth again, begotten by Mitra and Varuna, who were agitated by Urvaśī. The priests who were engaged in the sacrifice for King Nimi preserved Nimi's body in fragrant chemicals. When the sacrifice was over, the priests prayed for Nimi's life to all the demigods who had come to the arena of the yajna. But Mahārāja Nimi refused to take birth again in a material body because he considered the material body obnoxious. The great sages then churned Nimi's body, and as a result of this churning, Janak was born. How do you churn somebody's body? I always wondered that. The son of Janak was Udavasu, and the son of Udavasu was Nandivardhan. The son of Nandivardhan was Suketu, and his descendants continued as follows: Devarata, Brihadrata, Mahavirya, Sudhriti, Drishtaketu, Haryashva, Maru, Pratipaka, Kritarata, Devamida, Vishruta, Mahadriti, Kritirata, Maharoma, Swarnaroma, Hrasvaroma, and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. All these sons appeared in the dynasty one after another. From Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Mother Sita Devi was born. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam's son was Kuṣa-Dhwaja, and the son of Kuṣa-Dhwaja was Dharma-Dhwaja. The sons of Dharma-Dhwaja were Krita-Dhwaja and Mithila-Dhwaja. The son of Krita-Dhwaja was Keshi-Dhwaja, and the son of Mithila-Dhwaja was Kandikya. Keshi-Dhwaja was a self-realized soul, and his son was Bhanuman, whose descendants were as follows: Shatadumna, Shuchi, Sanadhwaja, Urjaketu, Aja, Purujit, Arishtanemi, Shrutayu, Suparshvaka, Chitraratha, Kshemadhi, Samaratha, Satyaratha, Upaguru, Upagupta, Vasvananta, Yayuda, Subhashana, Shruta, Jaya, Vijaya, Rita, Shunaka, Vitahavya, Dhriti, Bahulashva, Kriti, and Mahavashi. All of these were great self-controlled personalities. This completes the list of the entire dynasty. Oh, now we're going to read that all over again. Okay. Shri Shuka Uvacha Nimir Ikshvakutanayo Vasishtam Avritar Tvijam Arabhya Shatram Sopyaha Shakrena Pragvritosmi Bho. Srila Shukadev Goswami said, after beginning sacrifices, Mahārāja Nimi, the son of Ikshvaku, requested the great sage Vasishta to take the post of chief priests. At that time, Vasishta replied, my dear Mahārāja Nimi, I have already accepted the same post in a sacrifice begun by Lord Indra. Kamishyami tavan mang pratipalaya tushnim asid grihapati sopindrasya karon makam. I shall return here after finishing the yajna for Indra. Kindly wait for me until then. Mahārāja Nimi remained silent, and Vasishta began to perform the sacrifice for Lord Indra. Okay, so he didn't agree or anything, he just remained silent. Nimishchalam idam vidvan satram arambhatatmavan ritvigbhir aparaistavan nagamad yavata guru. Mahārāja Nimi, being a self-realized soul, considered that this life is flickering. Therefore, instead of waiting long for Vasishta, he began performing the sacrifice with other priests. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Chanakya Pandit says, Shariram Kshana Vidvangshi Kalpanta Stayino Guna. The duration of one's life in the material world may end at any moment. But if within this life one does something worthy, that qualification is depicted in history eternally. Here is a great personality, Mahārāja Nimi, who knew this fact. In the human form of life, one should perform activities in such a way that at the end, he goes back home, back to Godhead. This is self-realization. Shishya vyakti karamam vikshya tam nivartya gato guru ashapat patata deho nime panditamanina. After completing the sacrificial performance for King Indra, the spiritual master Vasishta returned and found that his disciple Mahārāja Nimi had disobeyed his instructions. Thus Vasishta cursed him, saying, may the material body of Nimi, who considers himself learned, immediately fall. Nimi prati dado shapam gurave dharma vartine tavapi patata deho lobhar dharmam ajanata. For unnecessarily cursing him when he had committed no offense, Mahārāja Nimi counter-cursed the spiritual master. For the sake of getting contributions from the King of Heaven, he said, you have lost your religious intelligence. Therefore, I pronounce this curse. Your body also will fall. Purport. The religious principle for a Brahmin is that he should not be greedy at all. In this case, however, for the sake of more lucrative remunerations from the King of Heaven, Vasishtha neglected Mahārāja Nimi's request on this planet, and when Nimi performed the sacrifices with other priests, Vasishtha unnecessarily cursed him. When one is infected by contaminated activities, his power, material or spiritual, reduces. Although Vasishtha was the spiritual master of Mahārāja Nimi, because of his greed, he became fallen. Itutsasarjasvang deham nimir adhyatmako vida mitra varunayor jagye Urvaśyam pratipamaha. After saying this, Mahārāja Nimi, who was expert in the science of spiritual knowledge, gave up his body. Vasishtha, the great-grandfather, gave up his body also, but through the semen discharged by Mitra and Varuna when they saw Urvaśī. He gave up his body also, but through the semen discharged by Mitra and Varuna when they saw Urvaśī, he was born again. Sorry about that. Purport. Mitra and Varuna chanced to meet Urvaśī, the most beautiful prostitute of the heavenly kingdom, and they became lusty. Because they were great saints, they tried to control their lust, but they could not do so, and thus they discharged semen. This semen was kept carefully in a water pot, and Vasishtha was born from it. Gandha vastu shuddha deham nidhaya muni sattama samapte satrayagecha devan uchu samagatan. During the performance of the yajna, the body relinquished by Mahārāja Nimi was preserved in fragrant substances, and at the end of the Satrayaga, the great saints and Brahmins made the following request to all the demigods assembled there. Ragyo jivatu deho yang prasanna prabhavo yadi tatetu te nimi praha ma bhunme deha bandhanam. If you are satisfied with this sacrifice, and if you are actually able to do so, kindly bring Mahārāja Nimi back to life in this body. The demigods said yes to this request by the sages, but Mahārāja Nimi said, "Please do not imprison me again in a material body." Purport. The demigods are in a position many times higher than that of human beings. Therefore, although the saints and sages were also powerful Brahmins, they requested the demigods to revive Mahārāja Nimi's body, which had been preserved in various perfumed bones. One should not think that the demigods are powerful only in enjoying the senses. They are also powerful in such deeds as bringing life back to a dead body. There are many similar instances in the Vedic literature. For example, according to the history of Savitri and Satyavan, Satyavan died and was being taken away by Yamaraj, but on the request of his wife Savitri, Satyavan was revived in the same body. This is an important fact about the power of the demigods. Yasya yogam nabanchanti viyoga bhayakatara bhajanti charanam bhojam munayo harimedhasa. Mahārāja Nimi continued. Mahārāja Nimi continued, Mayavadis generally want freedom from accepting a material body because they fear having to give it up again. But devotees whose intelligence is always filled with the service of the Lord are unafraid. Indeed, they take advantage of the body to render transcendental loving service. Purport. Mahārāja Nimi did not want to accept a material body which would be a cause of bondage. Because he was a devotee, he wanted a body by which he could render devotional service to the Lord. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Janma vihoye ichha jaditora bhakta grihe jane janma ho kita janma ho jata tu adasa Bahirmukha Brahma Janahi Asha. My Lord, If you want me to take birth and accept a material body again, kindly do me this favor. Allow me to take birth in the home of your servant, your devotee. I do not mind being born there even as an insignificant creature like an insect. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Na dhanam na janam na sundarim kavitamba jagarisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatar bhaktir ahituki tvai. O Lord of the universe, I do not desire material wealth, materialistic followers, a beautiful wife, or fruit of activities described in flowery language. All I want, life after life, is unmotivated devotional service to you. That's Shikshashtaka verse 4. By saying life after life, Janmani Janmani, the Lord referred not to an ordinary birth, but a birth in which to remember the lotus feet of the Lord. Such a body is desirable. A devotee does not think like yogis and jnanis, who want to refuse a material body and become one with the impersonal Brahman effulgence. A devotee does not like this idea. On the contrary, he will accept any body, material or spiritual, for he wants to serve the Lord. This is real liberation. If one has a strong desire to serve the Lord, even if he accepts a material body, there is no cause of anxiety, since a devotee, even in a material body, is a liberated soul. This is confirmed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Iha yasya harer dasya karmana manasa gira nikalasvaptavastasu jivan mukta sa uchate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness, or in other words, in the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person, even within the material world, although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities. The desire to serve the Lord establishes one as liberated in any condition of life, whether in a spiritual body or a material body. In a spiritual body, the devotee becomes a direct associate of the Lord. But even though a devotee may superficially appear to be in a material body, he is always liberated and is engaged in the service to the Lord as a devotee in Vaikuntha Loka. There is no distinction. It is said, Sadhur jiva va maro va. Whether a devotee is alive or dead, his only concern is to serve the Lord. Takta deham punar janma naiti mam eti. That's Bhagavad Gita 4:9. When he gives up his body, he goes directly to become an associate of the Lord and serve him, although he does the same thing even in a material body in the material world. For a devotee, there is no pain, pleasure, or material perfection. One may argue that at the time of death, a devotee also suffers because of giving up his material body. But in this connection, the example may be given that a cat carries a mouse in its mouth, and also carries a kitten in its mouth. Both the mouse and the kitten are carried in the same mouth, but the perception of the mouth is different from that of the kitten. When a devotee gives up his body, takta deham, he is ready to go back home, back to Godhead. Thus, his perception is certainly different from that of a person being taken away by Yamaraj for punishment. A person whose intelligence is always concentrated upon the service of the Lord is unafraid of accepting a material body, whereas a non-devotee, having no engagement in the service of the Lord, is very much afraid of accepting a material body or giving up his present one. Therefore, we should follow the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mama Janmani Janmanishvare Bhavatar Bhaktir Ahituki Tvai. It doesn't matter whether we accept a material body or a spiritual body. Our only ambition should be to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ehang navarutseham dukha shoka bhayavaham sarvatrasya yato mrityur matsyanam udake yataha. I do not wish to accept a material body, for such a body is the source of all distress, lamentation, and fear everywhere in the universe, just as it is for a fish in the water, which lives always in anxiety because of fear of death. Purport. The material body, whether in the higher or lower planetary system, is destined to die. In the lower planetary system or lower species of life, one may die soon, and in the higher planets or higher species, one may live for a long, long time. But death is inevitable. The facts should be understood. In the human form of life, one should take the opportunity to put an end to birth, death, old age, and disease by performing tapasya. This is the aim of human civilization, to stop the repetition of birth and death, which is called mrityu samsara vartamani. This can be done only when one is Krishna conscious or has a service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Otherwise, one must rot in this material world and accept a material body subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. The example given here is that water is a very nice place for a fish, but the fish is never free from anxiety about death, since big fish is eager to eat the small fish. Falguni tatra mahatam. All living entities are eaten by bigger living entities. This is the way of material nature. Ahastani sahastanam apadani chatushpadam falguni tatra mahatam jivo jivasya jivanam. Those who are devoid of hands are prey for those who have hands. Those devoid of legs are prey for the four-legged. The weak are the substance of the strong, and the general rule holds that one living being is food for another. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1:13-47. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has created the material world in such a way that one living entity is food for another. Thus, there is a struggle for existence. But although we speak of survival of the fittest, one can escape death without becoming a devotee of the Lord. Harim vina naiva sritim taranti. One cannot escape the cycle of birth and death without becoming a devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.3. Aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. One who does not attain shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna must certainly wander up and down within the cycle of birth and death. Deva uchuhu videha uchatam kamam lochaneshu sharirinam unmeshana nimeshabhyam lakshito dhyatma samstita. The demigod said, "Let Mahārāja Nimi live without a material body. Let him live in a spiritual body as a personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and, according to his desire, let him be manifest or unmanifest to common, materially embodied people." Purport. The demigods wanted Nimi to come to life, but Mahārāja Nimi did not want to accept another material body. Under the circumstances, the demigods, having been requested by the saintly persons, gave him the benediction that he would be able to stay in his spiritual body. There are two kinds of spiritual bodies as generally understood by common men. The term spiritual body is sometimes taken to refer to a ghostly body. An impious man who dies after sin activities is sometimes condemned so that he cannot possess a gross material body of 5 material elements, but he must live in a subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego. However, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita, devotees can give up the material body and attain a spiritual body free from all material tinges, gross and subtle. Takta deham punarjanma naitimam etisorjuna. Thus the demigods gave King Nimi the benediction that he would be able to stay in a purely spiritual body free from all gross and subtle material contamination. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be seen or unseen according to his own transcendental desire. Similarly, a devotee, being Jivan Mukta, can be seen or not, as he chooses. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is not manifest to everyone and anyone. The common man is to the common man, he is unseen. Atashi Krishna namati na bhavir grahyam indriyai. Krishna and his name, fame, qualities, and paraphernalia cannot be materially understood. Unless one is advanced in spiritual life, sevanmukhe hijivadho, one cannot see Krishna. Therefore, the ability to see Krishna depends on Krishna's mercy. The same privilege of being seen or unseen according to one's own desire was given to Mahārāja Nimi. Thus he lived in his original spiritual body as an associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arajaka bhayam nrinam manyamana maharshaya deham mamantusma nime kumara samajayata. Thereafter, to save the people from the danger of an unregulated government, the sages churned Mahārāja Nimi's material body, from which, as a result, a son was born. Purport. Arajaka Bhayam. If the government is unsteady and unregulated, there is danger of fear for the people. At the present moment, this danger always exists because of government by people. Here we can see that the great sages got a son from Here we can see that the great sages got a son from Nimi's material body to guide the citizens properly, for such guidance is the duty of a Kshatriya king. A Kshatriya is one who saves the citizens from being injured. In the so-called people's government, there is no trained Kshatriya king. As soon as someone strong gets votes, he becomes the minister or president, without training from the learned Brahmins expert in Shastras. Indeed, we see that in some countries, the government changes from party to party, and therefore the men in charge of the government are more eager to protect their position than to see that the citizens are happy. The Vedic civilization prefers monarchy. People liked the government of Lord Ramachandra, the government of Mahārāja Yudhishthira, and the government of Mahārāja Parikshit, Mahārāja Ambarish, and Mahārāja Prahlad. There are many instances of excellent government under a monarch. Gradually, the democratic government is being unfit for the needs of the people, and therefore some parties are trying to elect a dictator. A dictatorship is the same as a monarchy, but without a trained leader. Actually, people will be happy when a trained leader, whether a monarch or dictator, takes control of the government and rules the people according to the standard regulations of the authorized scriptures. Janmana. But a democratic government is better than an evil dictator, right? So, kind of, that's like the only option we have. It's either democratic government or terrible authoritarian dictatorship. Janmana janaka sobhur vaidehastu videhaja Mithila mathanajjato Mithila yena nirmita. Because he was born in an unusual way, the son was called the Janak, and because he was born from the dead body of his father, he was known as Vaideha. Because he was born from the turning of his father's material body, he was known as Mithila, and because he constructed a city as King Mithila, the city was called Mithila. Mithila, and the city is called Mithila, long at the end. Tasmad udavasustasya putro bhunnanti vardhana tata suketustasyapi devarato mahipate. O King Parikshit, from Mithila came a son named Udavasu. From Udavasu, Nandivardhan. From Nandivardhan, Suketu. And from Suketu, Devarata. So those are all Sita's brothers. Tasmad Brihadrattastasya Mahavirya Sudhritya Sudhriter Drishtaketurvai Haryashvota Marustata. From Devarata came a son named Brihadrata, and from Brihadrata a son named Mahavirya, who became the father of Sudhriti. The son of Sudhriti was known as Drishtaketu, and from Drishtaketu came Haryashva. From Haryashva came a son named Maru. Mara pipakastasmaj jata kritarato yata devamidas-tasya putra vishrutota mahadritihi. The son of Maru was Pratipaka, and the son of Pratipaka was Kritarata. From Kritarata came Devamira, and from Devamira Vishruta, and from Vishruta Mahadriti. Kritirastatastasman Maharo Machatatsuta Swarnaroma Sutastasya Hrasvaroma Vyajayata. From Mahadriti was born a son named Kritirata. From Kritirata was born Mahāroma. From Mahāroma came a son named Swarnaroma. And from Swarnaroma came Hrasvaroma. Tata Shiro Dvajo Jagye Yagyartam Karshato Mahim Sita Shiragrajo Kruto Jata Tasmat Shira Dvaja Smritaha. Okay, never mind. There's two Janaks. That makes a lot more sense. From Hrasvaroma came a son named Shiradvaja, also called Janak. Okay, so that's the Janak in Ramlila. When Shiradvaja was plowing a field, from the front of his plow, is the front of his Shira, appeared a daughter named Sita Devi, who later became the wife of Lord Ramachandra. Thus he was known as Shiradvaja. Kushadvajastasya putras tato dharmadvajo nripa dharmadvajasya dvau putro kritadvaja mitadvajo. So actually, Ram and Sita are very distant cousins. I mean, they both appeared in the Sun Dynasty. The son of Shiradvaja, right? Am I right there? The son of Shiradvaja was Kushadvaja, and the son of Kushadvaja was King Dharmadvaja, who had two sons, namely Kritadvaja and Mitadvaja. Kritadvajat Keshidvaja Kandikyastu Mitadvajat Kritadvaja Suto Rajan Atmavidya Visharada. Kandikya Karma Tattvagyo Bhita Keshidvajarutruta Bhanumangs Tasya Putro Bhuj Chattadumnas Tutatsuta. O Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Kritadvaja was Keshidvaja, and the son of Mitadvaja was Kandikya. The son of Kritadvaja was expert in spiritual knowledge, and the son of Mitadvaja was expert in Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Kandikya fled in fear of Keshidvaja. The son of Keshidvaja was Bhanuman, and the son of Bhanuman was Shattadumna. Wait, who's... Anyways. God, anyways. Shuchistu tanayastasmat sanadvaja suto bhavat urjaketu sanadvajad arjota purujit suta. The son of Shatadumna was named Shuchi. From Shuchi, Sanadvaja was born, and from Sanadvaja came a son named Urjaketu. The son of Urjaketu was Aja, and the son of Aja was Purujit. Arishtanemistasyapi shrutayustat suparshvaka tataschitra rato yasya kshemadhir Mithila dipa. The son of Purujit was Arishtanemi, and his son was Shrutayu. Shrutayu begot a son named Suparshvaka, and Suparshvaka begot Chitraratha. The son of Chitraratha was Kshemadhi, who became the king of Mithila. Tasmat samaratastasya sutta satyaratastata asir upagus tasmad upagupto gni sambhava. The son of Kshemadhi was Samaratha, and his son was Satyaratha. The son of Satyaratha was Upaguru, and the son of Upaguru was Upagupta, a partial expansion of the fire god. Vasananto taptat putro yuyudho yat sabhashana shrutas tato jayastasmad vijayosmad rita sutaha. The son of Upagupta was Vasvananta. The son of Vasvananta was Yuyudha. The son of Yuyudha was Subhashana. And the son of Subhashana was Shruta. The son of Shruta was Jaya, from whom there came Vijaya. The son of Vijaya was Rita. Shunatatsuto jagye vitaha vyodritistata bahulashva dritestasya kritir asya Mahārāja. The son of Rita was Shunaka. The son of Shunaka was Vitahavya. The son of Vitahavya was Dhriti. And the son of Dhriti was Bahulashva. The son of Bahulashva was Kriti. And his son was Mahāvashi. Etevai Mithila Rajan Atmavidya Visharadaha Yogeshvara Prasadhena Dvandvar Mukta Griheshvapi. Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear King Parikshit, all the kings of the dynasty of Mithila were completely in knowledge of their spiritual identity. Therefore, even though staying at home, they were liberated from the duality of material existence." Purport. This material world is called Dvaita, or duality. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya 4.176 says, Dvaite bhadra bhadra jnana sabha manodharma e bhalo e manda e sabha dharma. In the world of duality, that is to say, in the material world, so-called goodness and badness are both the same. Therefore, in this world, to distinguish between good and bad, happiness and distress is meaningless, because they are both mental concoctions, manodharma. Because everything here is miserable and troublesome, to create an artificial situation and pretend it to be full of happiness is simply illusion. The liberated person, being above the influence of the three modes of material nature, is unaffected by such dualities in all circumstances. He remains Krishna conscious by tolerating so-called happiness and distress. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2.14. Matra sparshas tukunteya sitoshna sukadukada agama payano nityas tang satikshvasa bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharta, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Those who are liberated, being on the transcendental platform of rendering service to the Lord, do not care about so-called happiness and distress. They know that these are like changing seasons, which are perceivable by contact with the material body. Happiness and distress come and go. Therefore, a pundit, a learned man, is not concerned with them. As it is said, Gatasun agatasumscha nanu shochanti pandita. The body is dead from the very beginning because it is a lump of matter. It has no feelings of happiness and distress. Because the soul within the body is in the bodily concept of life, he suffers happiness and distress, but these come and go. It is understood herewith that the kings born in the dynasty of Mithila were all liberated persons, unaffected by the so-called happiness and distress of this world. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th canto, 13th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Dynasty of Mahārāja Nimi. And thus ends the Surya dynasty, right? I think so, yes. Now, we're moving on to chapter 14. Just going to read the first, 7 verses? Hari Bol Savitri Devi. I guess he was just hanging out as a ghost, like a ghost at the sacrifice, yeah. Oh, and Rupmanjari Didi, that was Manasa Deha Geha. Jogi Chumor. Yeah, Sita Devi's father's name is Janaka, Mithili, and Vaidehi. Alright, no problem with Manjari Didi. Hari Bol Sukota Didi. Hari Bol, Kishore Prabhu. Alright. So let's go back to, we're reading up to verse 7. Right. Chapter 14. King Purūravā enchanted by Urvaśī. Urvaśī, I don't know. Yeah, it's probably Urvaśī. The summary of this 14th chapter is given as follows. This chapter describes Soma and how he kidnaps the wife of Bṛhaspati and begot in her womb a son named Buddha. Buddha begot Purūravā, who begot 6 sons headed by Ayu in the womb of Urvaśī. Lord Brahma was born from the lotus that sprouted from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Brahma had a son named Atri, and Atri's son was Soma, the king of all drugs and stars. Soma became the conqueror of the entire universe, and being inflated with pride, he kidnapped Tārā, who was the wife of Bṛhaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods. A great fight ensued between the demigods and asuras, but Brahma rescued Bṛhaspati's wife from the clutches of Soma and returned her to her husband, thus stopping the fighting. In the womb of Tārā, Soma begot a son named Buddha, who begot in the womb of Ila a son named Aila, or Purūravā. Urvaśī was captivated by Purūravā's beauty, and therefore she lived with him for some time. But when she left his company, he became almost like a madman. While traveling all over the world, he met Urvaśī again at Kurukshetra, but she agreed to join him for only 1 night in a year. 1 year later, Purūravā saw Urvaśī at Kurukshetra and was glad to be with her for 1 night. But when he thought of her leaving him again, he was overwhelmed by grief. Urvaśī then advised Purūravā to worship the Gandharvas. Being satisfied with Purūravā, the Gandharvas gave him a woman known as Agnistali. Purūravā mistook Agnistali for Urvaśī, but while he was wandering in the forest, his misunderstanding was cleared, and he immediately gave up her company. So he wasn't all just about the looks. He liked the person. After returning home and meditating upon Urvaśī all night, he wanted to perform a Vedic ritualistic ceremony to satisfy his desire. Thereafter, he went to the same place where he had left Agnistali, and there he saw that from the womb of a shami tree had come an ashvata tree. Purūravā made 2 sticks from this tree and thus produced a fire. By such a fire, one can just satisfy all lusty desires. Interesting. The fire was considered the son of Purūravā. In Satya Yuga, there was only one social division, called Hamsa. There were no divisions of Varna like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. The Veda was the Omkar. The various demigods were not worshipped, for only the Supreme Personality of Godhead was the worshipable deity. Interesting. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Let me just see. My battery is at 12%. I think we can make. Shri Shuka Uvacha Atata Shruyatam Rajan Vangsha Somasya Pavana Yasmin Aila Dayo Bhupa Kirtyante Punya Kirtaya. Srila Shukadev Goswami said to Mahārāja Parikshit, O king, thus far you have heard the description of the dynasty of the sun god. Now hear the most glorious and purifying description of the dynasty of the moon god. This description mentions kings like Aila, Purūravā, of whom it is glorious to hear. Sahasra Shirshapo Nabhihrada Suro Ruhat Jatasyasit Suto Dhatur Atri Pitri Samo Gunai. Lord Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, is also known as Sahasra Shirsha Purusha. From the lake of his navel sprang a lotus, on which Lord Brahma was generated. Atri, the son of Lord Brahma, was as qualified as his father. Tasya drigbhyo bhavat puta somamritya maya kila vipro shadu dugananam brahmana kali. From Atri's tears of jubilation was born a son named Soma, the moon, who is full of soothing rays. Lord Brahma appointed him the director of the Brahmins, drugs, and luminaries. Purport. According to the Vedic description, Soma, the moon god, was born from the mind of the Supreme Personality Godhead, Chandrama Manaso Jata. But here we find that Soma was born from the tears in the eyes of Atri. This appears to be contradictory to the Vedic information, but actually it is not, for this birth of the moon is understood to have taken place in another millennium. When tears appear in the eyes because of jubilation, the tears are soothing. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Drigbhya Anandashrubhya Atta Evatmrita Maya. Here the word Drigbhya means from the tears of jubilation. Therefore, the moon god is called Amrita Maya, full of soothing rays. In the 4th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 4.115, we find this verse, Atri Patni Anasūyā Trin Jagye Shuyashasa Sutan Tattam Durvasasam Somam Atmesha Brahmasam Bhavan. This verse describes that Anasūyā, the wife of Atri Rishi, bore 3 sons, Soma, Durvasa, and Dattatreya. It is said that at the time of conception, Anasūyā was impregnated by the tears of Atri. God. Should we try to make it? I have 9%. Oh yeah, we'll make it. Zoyajar Rajasuyena Vijita Bhuvanatrayam Patnim Bṛhaspate Darpat Tāram Namahara Balat. After conquering the 3 worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, Soma, the moon god, performed a great sacrifice known as the Rajasuya Yagya. Because he was very much puffed up, he forcibly kidnapped Bṛhaspati's wife, whose name was Tārā. Yada Sadeva Guruna Yachito Bhikshnasho Madat Natyajat Tatkrite Jagye Suradanava Vigraha. Although requested again and again by Bṛhaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, Soma, did not return Tārā. This was due to his false pride. Consequently, a fight ensued between the demigods and the demons. Shukro Bṛhaspate Dveshad Agrahit Sasuro Dupam Aro Guru Sutam Sneha Sarvabhuta Ganavrita. Because of enmity between Bṛhaspati and Shukra, Shukra took the side of the moon god and was joined by the demons. But Lord Shiva, because of affection for the son of his spiritual master, joined the side of Bṛhaspati and was accompanied by all the ghosts and hobgoblins. Well, the ghosts and hobgoblins against the demons. Purport. The moon god is one of the demigods, but to fight against the other demigods, he took the assistance of the demons. Shukra, being an enemy of Bṛhaspati, also joins the moon god to retaliate in wrath against Bṛhaspati. To counteract this situation, Lord Shiva, who was affectionate toward Bṛhaspati, joins Bṛhaspati. The father of Bṛhaspati was Angira, from whom Lord Shiva had received knowledge. Therefore, Lord Shiva had some affection for Bṛhaspati and joined his side in this fight. Sridhar Swami remarks, Angirasa Shakshat Prapta Vidyo Hara Iti Prasiddha. Lord Shiva is well known to receive knowledge from Angira. Sarvadeva Ganopito Mahindro Gurumandvayat Sura Sura Vinasho Bhut Samarastara Kamaya. So we're going to end with this verse. King Indra, accompanied by all kind gods, joined the side of Bṛhaspati. Thus there was a great fight, destroying both the demons and demigods, only for the sake of Tārā, Bṛhaspati's wife. So we'll find out what happens tomorrow. Let's just see a preview here. 1 second. Then Brahma stops the fight, and Tārā gives birth to Soma's son Buddha. Then Urvaśī hears from Narad Muni about Purūravā and meets him. Urvaśī puts 3 conditions to which Purūravā agrees, and they both decide to marry. The Gandharvas steal the lambs of Urvaśī. Oh, that's what it was. It's the lambs of Urvaśī. She was really upset about that. Who then rebuked Purūravā. Purūravā retrieves the lambs, but Urvaśī sees him naked and leaves him. She had 2 conditions. Don't steal my lambs, and I never want to see you naked. Aggrieved, Purūravā wanders like a madman and sees Urvaśī at Kurukshetra and begs her to be with him. Urvaśī speaks about the nature of women and finally agrees to be with him for 1 night in a year. Purūravā worships Gandharvas, who give him in Agni Stali. Purūravā performs a karma kanda sacrifice and attains Urvaśī in Gandharva Loka. Alright, so we're going to read all that tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Shukadev Didi. So Sita Devi was born from the earth, right? Like when they're plowing, like we just read. And so Sita's mother is Prithvi Devi, Mother Earth. Jai Shishi Guru. And Dandavat Pranams, Nuri Hari Prabhu and Baba Tārā Mataji. Dandavat Pranams. And the Raj Bhuvan Yadav. Hare Krishna. Oh, and that I don't know. Does anybody know the name of Janak Maharaja's, the queen? Yeah, I don't know anything about that. Did he have queens? Yeah, he did. Yeah, I don't know, sorry. Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shishi Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai. Shri Govana Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmar Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmar Shri Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmar Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishta Mahā-Bhagavat Shri Gopsharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishta Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nithila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopala Bhattadash Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai. Sorry, one second. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal, sorry. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindaye Tulsi Devai Priyaye Keshavashacha. Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.